joined now by an actor who always plays very interesting and often funny parts, as well as having something of a sideline as Brian Blessed. So I'd like to introduce Matthew Earley.
The videos are Blessed. I then in 2008, I got commissioned to do them. And because I've been an actor by that point for 9 years, and I'd have, it's very precarious. You'd have little peaks and then, not much would happen. I kind of thought, well, the comedy's going really well and, things should start happening. And I was getting little, like I said, I did these videos, then I had a meeting with Talkback about possibility of doing stuff. And then the live stuff was going, but I was getting the odd gig that was really good. So I was supporting Stephen Merchant and a few other big names. And word was getting around. And I didn't know why, but I had to basically go and do the rubbish gigs to then get on. So I kind of stopped it really, because I had to move out of London as well, just due to financial circumstances. And also I was going to take a one-man show up to Edinburgh, but I didn't have the money to do so I couldn't do that. And so that just faded out, and I just basically was at the mercy of other people, phoning me up and getting the acting auditions and gigs and stuff by that. But I've always thought about going back, and because I had these ideas of Brian doing this show, and it was going to be called The Real Brian Blessed Dumps His Comedy Load, and then have all these other characters that I had in my head that I knew are based on people come via Brian. So I'd do it the whole show as Brian, and then say, well, I met this guy, and then I'd sort of turn in, do another character, and it's like him telling all these series of anecdotes. But I know with the free Fringe came along, but I wanted to do 2 weeks. I could afford to do 2 weeks, and then the person who was organising it said, no, you've got to do 4, and I couldn't do it, and I just I didn't end up carrying on. But we did go back to Comedy Box, who commissioned the YouTube Blessed stuff, and they were going to commission some more, but then someone at the top said, because I think it changed, and I think Warner's had left or something went on, but someone at the top said, actually, you're out of our range, because we're really going for 16 to 24-year-olds, and not many 16, 24-year-olds know Brian Blessed is. So, we just knocked that on the head. But
the Brian Blessed side of things, does that creep into everyday life every now and again?
What, the Brian Blessed? Well, I did some voiceovers a few years ago for, again, it was a Christmas end of year thing on Channel 4, and it was about Brian and the Badgers, because him and Brian May, there was all this stuff in the news about him, save the Badgers. So I did some little voiceover for a cartoon of that, but not really. I was thinking about doing some more stuff with my cousin, who actually lived around the corner, but he's got a proper job and 3 kids, so his time's used a lot elsewhere. But we did speak briefly about possibly doing some more Blessed stuff, and it would be more Brian Blessed's take on the issues of today with Brexit. I mean, this was last year with Brexit happening, possibly his idea on mental health and and cult, like religion and cult and things like that. So that's a possibility. I might get together with him and try something down that line. But I was never a massive fan, to be honest, of Blessed. And when I went up to Edinburgh in the first year, in 2007, I had 3 slots, I think, at Spank in the Caves, and it went down so well. And I met so many people who are massive fans of him, and I met a Swedish guy who runs his fan page. Yeah, it was bizarre. And all these people, again, who had met him and all their experiences and what he was like, and so I was kind of blown away by that. I just knew he was a guy with this extraordinary voice that I could just impersonate after listening to him every night for a month. and yeah, and then getting booed off. And I remember getting booed off, and Simon Munnery was compere, and he just went, "Oh, don't give up, carry on, all the best," like that. And I sort of went, "Yeah." And I think my natural disposition, I'd sort of probably go, "Yeah, I probably should give up and not do that again." But something gave me a spur of just going, "No, I'm gonna find something else and come back," which I did. And like you said, during that period, I actually watched a program all about, I think it was based on the top 50 comedians of all time. And I remember one of my heroes, Alexi Sales, saying that when you go on stage, you're in control. You've got to demand that control. And, you've got a microphone for one. And actually, there weren't many gigs I used a microphone, actually. But he was just saying, you've got to tell them who's boss. And I thought, well, yeah, and perfect, And I'd walk on stage, because I'll tell you the act I used to do. I would have the compere say, "Tonight we've got a special guest. It's the real Brian Blessed." And I'd walk on stage. I'd look obviously a bit like him. You'd get a snigger. And I'd take quite a long time to say anything. And I'd have a book, because I was reading from my memoirs. And I'd spend quite a bit of time not saying anything. And then I'd look at the audience and go, "Yes, that's right, it is me." And then they'd, okay, that's quite good. And then go, and then read from these made up memoirs. And they were all diary entries from the past of just stupid, ridiculous scenarios that I'd be involved in, or, I think the first one was something like, "April 5th, 1984, the milkman, who is a woman. Instead of you delivering my usual Shambossy hippopotamus, delivered me 4 pig-skin yoghurts instead, of which one had been opened up by a blue-tit. Lesson: never trust a woman to deliver yogurt or milk unless they're from her boobies." And then I'd move on and just talk about ridiculous things like that. And it kind of seemed to go down very well. So yeah. And then once that kind of worked, I thought, well, yeah, this is all right, but then I just didn't have I don't know, I think because I'd been an actor for 8 years by then, I just thought, I want it to happen now and not wait around again, like I had been waiting for the phone to call.
So it was perhaps no surprise then that a lot of your acting work is comedic, working with likes of Warwick Davis, Williams and Friends. They were people that you already knew from the comedy circuit then?
No, I with a lot of that stuff was just, again, as an actor, and you're right for the part, they see your 10 by 8 and then get you in. I mean, the Warwick Davis with Ricky Gervais and Steve Merchant, when did I do that? That was 2011 I filmed that, summertime. And in the spring, I just went up for a couple of the parts and then got that. And it was actually during a period where I was without an agent, because my agent at the time had given up the business and she wanted to go in, I think, into publication. So I was lucky. It was during a time where I'd just done a BBC Three sitcom called Coming of Age. And the BBC, I suppose, I was possibly, there was a producer for the BBC called Simon London, and he used to work for So Productions, which is the Graham Norton's production company. And in 2002, during this time, so 18 years ago, during the World Cup, I knew someone who worked on the Graham Norton shows, and Des Lynam, I think, was due to come on and have a chat that night, but because England were playing Brazil in the World Cup, he couldn't make it, so they got Alan Cumming in instead. And they had this idea of having these trolley dolly characters, because he did a sitcom called The High Life about a bunch of trolley dollies. And they were looking for guys who could do camp. And this girl, Jo, who worked on the show, had met me about 2 months previously at a party through a friend. So she got my number and phoned me up, and I was working in a call centre at the time. And I just got this random phone call, and she said, "Can you come in to London studios for tonight? We want you to be on the Graham Norton show." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "Look, can you come? It's 150 quid, cash in hand, free bar. You know, I'll tell you more when you get here." So I got there, and there was all these really camp men sort of hanging around, and she told me the premise is that you're going to pretend to be a trolley dolly and Alan Cumming. There'll be 3 guys, 2 fake, 1 genuine trolley dolly, and you'll have to do a demonstration like you're on the plane doing. And 2 of you are fake, and he's got to guess the real one. So I said, okay. I said, but they won't use me because there's a lot of guys, you know, who are more believable. And they went, no, I think they'll want you to do it. So anyway, I ended up doing it. And then Simon London, who was one of the producers, really liked it and found it very funny. And everyone was very nice. And then they got me back as that character, and they called me Camp Matt on another 3 shows. And I thought it was going to turn out to be a bit of a regular thing. And then they sort of said, oh, no, it's just a sort of one-off type thing, and stopped it. But Simon then went on and started producing sitcoms. And he goes, I've got this guy I know who'd be perfect for this music teacher, camp music teacher. So yeah, I went in, auditioned for it. I got the part. And initially it was just for 1 episode. And then they said, actually, we've written you in another episode. So I ended up doing 2 episodes of that. And they said, if it goes to a 3rd series, because this was the 2nd series on BBC 3, then possibility of you coming back. And then after that, they had written me in virtually every episode of series 3. And they hadn't quite finished it off. So I went and did that. And so then that came out. And then the following year, just at the beginning of 2011, my agent then went. So I was on my own representing myself, and I was still getting castings. So I was representing myself. And then Simon phoned me up and said, look, I'm doing a sketch show, Watson and Oliver, and these 2 girls, Lorna and Ingrid, and I'd like you to come in and do some guest roles. So I went and did that, and then that went to a 2nd series, so I worked on the 2nd series. So I suppose I was kind of aware, you know, amongst the BBC during that point. So from the January to the October, when I got a new agent, I was on my own, but I was still getting castings. And that's when Ricky and Stephen saw me in the spring of that year and cast me as the security guard in Life's Too Short. So, and the David Walliams thing, that was strange, because the last job, because I went through a period of 3 years where I wasn't getting anything. From 2012 to 2015 went really quiet. And I think that one of the last jobs I'd done was Doctor Who. And when I did Doctor Who, everyone was saying, oh, well, you know, you're on Twitter, because on the day we filmed it, that we had a little audience, because it was outside the Shard we were filming. And Matt Smith, bless him, came up to me and he goes, hi, Matt. He goes, you thought you were being cast for a TV show, but it's theatre. Are you all right with this audience? And they had to kind of cross over the road when we were doing my close-ups. They stood over there, and then Matt's, they stood over the other side. But so that was bizarre. And that night, I put Doctor Who, I just wrote it on Twitter, and I was there with Matt Smith, and like it was all over Twitter. So I thought, God, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. And I'd have thought after that, I'd possibly be, you know, getting more stuff. And then out of the blue, I got this, they were doing David Walliams' new show. So I went in that. Yeah, I did that in 2015. But the last thing I'd done had been Doctor Who in that October, I think, or Watson Oliver, the 2nd series, one of the 2. But yeah, so it's a funny old business. Sometimes you think, right, okay, I've done that, I've done this, you know, things will progress, and they sadly didn't for a time. But that's the nature of the beast, I suppose.
So was Doctor Who quite a a unique experience? Because there's not many shows that have such a following, and I suppose such an immediate, while you're filming it, following.
Well, it was. I mean, because I went up for it, and I remember I was rushing back from. I just filmed The Mimic in Bristol, and so I got a train back, and then I had to go to London for the casting, and I think 3.5 weeks went by, and didn't hear anything, and then my agent phoned and said, "Oh, you've got Doctor Who," and I was like, "Oh," and I'd kind of forgotten about it. But my memory of the day, it was like I said, Matt Smith was very nice, and it was shot towards the end of that long day of waiting around, and yeah, it was. And Celia Imrie was in it, and I'd met her a few days before filming, just so I could be aware of her and how she was going to do the character. And I remember the director of the episode, was it Cameron who directed it? I can't remember.
McCarthy.
Colm, that's it. And him going, yeah, a little bit too camp, not as camp this time, and yeah, but I don't think I escaped that because I am quite camp in it. But she was lovely as well, meeting Celia, and it's always amazing. Sometimes you meet these actors who are constantly working, and when you actually have a conversation with them, they're as scared of you as you. They don't know when their next job is, and you think, yeah, but you've got CV as long as your arm, it's and yeah, so that was nice. And yeah, and then it was just the aftermath of it, and all the fans writing you letters and getting all this fan mail via my agent, and signing photographs and sending them off. That was weird because I mean, I think once some kid noticed me on a bus because of the coming of age show, but yeah. So and then I was actually in a festival at Colchester, my hometown, in Castle Park, and this guy approached me and said, were you in Doctor Who? And I went, oh yeah, that's right. And went, oh great, yeah, really liked it, thanks. But yeah, no, I was quite blown away at how massive it is, really. And then you asking me to do this 8 years later, or 8 years after I'd worked, because I think it came out 7 years ago, I think.
Yeah, so it's a part that never really escapes you, and I suppose will be with you forever now.
Well, this is the other thing, is a guy wrote a blog all about Man with Chips. And I can't remember how I came across it. I think when I started getting all the mail, I think I possibly Googled my name and Man with Chips. I don't know why, but I was just quite intrigued. And I found this webpage that was dedicated to my character. And it was just unbelievable. And I think it's been taken down now, but it was fascinating because this guy had written this background to my character and where this guy had even bought the chips from. He'd Google mapped the area of London where we filmed it and realised there was about 4 or 5 different places where you could buy chips. And the biggest question was, is this man with chips and fish? Like, has he got fish and chip? And what would he have other than chips? And he named this place where you could buy fish and chips. He said, but the chips are quite pricey. And he looks like he lives on the streets. He's a bit down and out, this character. So I don't think he'd have much money. So I don't think he bought them from this place. There is a place just around the corner and 2 streets up. 90p a portion of chips. I reckon he may have purchased them there. But we still don't know, is there fish? So it was quite remarkable. So yeah, the power of being in Doctor, but the oddity, I suppose, of being in something that's that big. I didn't, just, and again, like a minor character. It wasn't like I was the guest lead or, yeah.
So I imagine that would have been perhaps more thought and sort of backstory development than perhaps you put in yourself to the part.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just hoping to just say the lines and not muck up. But yeah, Yeah.
And were you aware that they were going to cut between yourself and Celia? Because I think that it does make it quite funny the way that you start the sentence and she finishes it, and it's beautifully done.
Yeah. I know I didn't. That was obviously done in the edit, and I just remember I had to pretend I was watching Matt on the motorbike going up the Shard and delivering that line. And I remember we didn't get many takes at it because it was the end, towards the end of the day, and it was the end of the second day filming in London, because I think they only filmed twice in London before doing Doctor Who, and so they had to get back to Wales to film the next day. So it was like, really sorry, but we've got to go now. So yeah. So yeah, but no, I had no idea how it was going to be, and I was very pleased with it, and it's still on the show reel. So
yeah, no, it's a fantastic scene, and it's nice to be with Matt Smith, I suppose, if you're going to do Doctor Who with the Doctor.
yeah, I mean, my dad, funny enough, is a massive fan. I'm not so much. I suppose I shouldn't really say that, but and I'd obviously seen it before, and I liked what Matt Smith was doing. My dad's a big fan of Matt Smith, so yeah, and he was great. He was really nice, and when I did the voice of Celia, he said, "Oh, what a great voice!" He said, "I think every actor should do that voice." So I don't know if he's taking the piss. No, he was lovely. No, very nice.
And of course, not everything you've done is comedic. You've worked on films like Christopher Robin, and more recently, you've worked on Boys, produced by Russell T Davies.
Yes, yeah. Which was I was doing a horror film up in Leeds called Censor that's coming out. I think hopefully this year. Last year September, and I got a phone call from my agent, and they said, "You've got a casting for 2 projects. One was, I think it was The Great, that's now on Sky. Is it about Catherine the Great? And the other one was for Russell T Davies's new drama Boys." So I thought, well, I can't obviously go. They said, no, you have to do a self-tape. So I was in very much like this in my hotel room. The next day I had a day off, and so did it via self-tape. Sent them both off, they were fine, and then got back on the Friday of that week, and that's when they phoned up and said, yeah, you've got Boys. So I think I did it on the Wednesday and found out on the Friday, which is always nice to get, know sort of within a couple of days. And then that was filmed up in Manchester, and I'm a big fan of Russell's work, and that was great. Yeah, no, that was lovely, and just did it, and really nice crew and a great director. And I thought Russell was going to be there, but he wasn't. And I'm really looking forward to watching it when it comes out.
When you put your show reel together or something, is it nice to have that combination of the comedy parts and the more sort of serious parts? It must be a lovely mixture of the two.
Very much so, yeah. It's also 2016, the summer of that year, I did Harlots, which is probably the most serious thing, which is a drama on Hulu. And it was ITV, so it was on an ITV channel, I forget which one, and Hulu, and on Sky as well. And that was good. And working with Samantha Morton, and you don't get much more serious than that, I suppose. But it was great, yeah. And I mean, I suppose I've always been someone who impersonates people and trying to make people laugh when I was a kid, and I suppose it comes more natural to me. But I always quite like the idea of doing the serious character parts and the more dramatic stuff as well. So yeah, I wouldn't like to just do comedy. It's nice to do a mix and show that other side,
And just going back to the comedy for a minute, working on something like Williams and Friends and Watson Oliver, is it quite nice to be doing lots of different parts within a series of short sketches, or would you much rather develop a character like in Coming of Age?
Yeah, I mean, I must say on both those programs, I did other parts, but it wasn't that many. I actually think on Walliams a Friend, I just did one part, and but in Watson Oliver, I did about 3 or 4 parts. But it's more kind of stooge type parts. But although there was one character that was quite fun doing, and but I suppose it's nice to just have one thing to do at a time. I remember a friend of mine was in a sketch show, and I think it was the Kevin Bishop show, and he said it was exhausting doing that because he said you're picked up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then he was getting home at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and literally getting in his front room, getting in his bedroom, then going to sleep, waking up for about 4 or 5 weeks on the trot. And that show, I think they did more sketches in that show than any other sketch show per episode. So, I mean, poor old Kevin, was constantly like doing a different character. And some people love that and thrive on that. And I suppose if you've got the confidence and like everything, right, okay, I can do this, then I'm sure it's great fun. But it is nice to just have one thing at a time and sort of concentrate on that. Yeah.
Who are the directors that you're particularly keen to work with that perhaps you haven't already?
Well, actually, this film Censor that I worked on, that's Prano Bailey Bond, and she's an upcoming young director. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. And that had Niamh Elgar, the Irish actress who has just done Calm with Horses, the film. And last year she was in The Virtues with Stephen Graham. And that was great to work on, and looking forward to seeing that. So, directors I'd like to work with. I can't think of any at the moment, but it would have been nice to actually, it was great working on The Boys, and I was kind of wishing that Russell was going to be there because it'd be nice to meet him, and and like I said, I'm really looking forward to, and it's funny because we're going through this period now of retrospect, looking back at the 80s. That's set in 1985, I think, and so is the film that I did, Censor, because it's about the censorshipping of films in the mid 80s in this country. So everything seems to be shot in between 1984 and 1987 at the moment. So yeah, but it'd be lovely to work with both those directors again, Prano and I've forgotten the name of the director of The Boys, but yeah.
Well, on the note of things to come, I think it's a lovely point to say thank you very much for your time, Matthew. It's been great to talk to you about some of your work.
Thank you.